Hello everyone, Brian Zane here with your WWE Payback 2016 review. I just got done watching the show, so let's begin to talk about it and see if this show could live up to the lofty standards of WrestleMania 32. And let's face it, it wouldn't have to work very hard to do that. Pre-show match number 1, Baron Corbin versus Dolph Ziggler. Very curious beginning to the Baron Corbin experiment on the main roster. You know, they started him out strong, winning the Battle Royal WrestleMania. That was his entrance, that was his arrival into the main roster. And so since then, he's been kind of embroiled in the feud with Dolph Ziggler. Didn't start out very strong for him, having that no contest finish the Raw after WrestleMania. And so that was kind of a confusing way to start. But, this may be the blow-off to that little feud before they do something more with Corbin. I will say Baron Corbin's got a lot of heat, for a guy people don't know a whole lot about, except for what they've seen on NXT. And again, the NXT audience is very small compared to the main roster audience. I'd say Baron Corbin's done very well for himself in establishing who he is and what he's like, and he's definitely studied the Kevin Owens school of trash talk because he's doing a lot of that. He's doing a lot of trash talking to the fans and the wrestlers, so I think it's definitely working. This match itself was a good match. I didn't have anything really boo to say about it. I did think the spot that Baron Corbin did on the outside where he powerbombs, he lifts up Ziggler into a powerbomb, then tosses him into the turnbuckle post. That was a really cool spot. A little excessive considering it's a long way to go just to throw someone in the turnbuckle, but nevertheless, I thought it was kind of a cool spot. I was confused at the finish. I think Corbin should have gone over if this is the guy they want to, move along pushing. I think having him lose his first big singles match is not a good way to go. I think he really should have won it. And this probably means there's going to be a rematch either on Raw the next night or at Extreme Rules where he goes over. I think that's just kind of delaying the inevitable. I think he should have just won overall. Pre-show match number 2, the United States Championship match where Kalisto defends the title against Ryback in a rematch from last month's pre-show match at WrestleMania. First of all, before I say anything about the match, I will say Kalisto's reign as champion has been kind of a waste of a run. Once he won the championship and beat Del Rio in the feud, you would have hoped this would have led to bigger and better things for him as a singles competitor, but instead they keep putting in with Sin Cara, which by itself isn't a bad thing, but if you're trying to establish this person's identity as a single competitor, especially a guy with a mask who doesn't really get to show much emotion in the face, you don't get to see much of his personality, he doesn't get a whole ton of promo time, I think him still being in a tag team with Sin Cara is not the right move. And they've barely even mentioned the fact that he's been U.S. champion in the weeks leading up to this match. So I think it's just kind of a real waste of a run. Now, that being said, his match with Ryback was, I think, better than expected. Now, I didn't see their match at WrestleMania because Biggs and I couldn't get to our seats in time, so we didn't get to see that match for comparison. But I will say this match was a lot of fun to watch. Kalisto was just bouncing off the walls against Ryback. I loved his spot where he jumps off, did the springboard off the top turnbuckle into a DDT onto the apron. I thought that was amazing. Really cool spot. Kalisto blows me away every time he's out there. And also what blew me away was Ryback's weightlifting belt he had, the pre-show stopper. I thought that was a brilliant touch by him. And again, Ryback, like I've said before in previous shows, he continues to impress by kind of expanding what he can do as a big guy. I thought him just doing the stuff at the top rope, the whole ending sequence, going into the shell shock, the counter, and then the spine buster, and then doing the stuff at the top rope where he did the top rope gorilla press, he went for the splash, and he missed, and Kalisto hit the Salida del Sol and won the match. That was a brilliant ending sequence. And, I don't think it's going to hurt Ryback, losing to a little guy twice in a row. I think he's Ryback gonna be Ryback, and he's gonna keep doing what he's doing, and I don't think it's gonna hurt him in the long run. And Kalisto, it only helps him. Now, I just hope they do something more substantive with his run as U.S. champion. Stop going against Ryback. Go against other people, please, Kalisto. Tag match to determine the number 1 contenders for the tag team titles, Enzo and Cass versus the Vaudevillains. Obviously, the big story of this one, the match didn't really happen. It got thrown out because very early on, Enzo suffered a concussion. If you didn't see the show, he was getting thrown out by Simon Gotch. He hit his head in the middle rope and it snapped back, hit the mat, and that's where he got concussed. And it was a very scary botch to see, very scary injury to see happen. One of my fans messaged me during the show after that happened and said, this is the reason WWE needs an offseason because all these injuries. And now I've argued for an offseason in the past, but an offseason would not have prevented this. This was a freak accident in the ring. It could have happened to anybody, but best wishes to Enzo for his recovery. I hope he recovers soon and gets back in the ring very soon. But let's just talk about my quick little observations, my irrelevant now observations about the match before what happened. I think that with the Vaudevillains. I said a while ago in my NXT editorial several months back that there's a lot of gimmicks on NXT that get over there, but I don't think they would get over with a mass audience on the main roster. This was the specific gimmick I was thinking about. I don't think I said it expressly in that video, but the Vaudevillains was the thing that came to mind when I was talking about that kind of disparity. Because, yeah, Vaudevillains are going to get crazy over with the hip crowd at NXT, but, you know, the crowd that doesn't watch NXT seeing the Vaudevillains, they're not going to get it. And I think, you know, this show symbolized it, because Chicago, which it was a loud crowd all night long, they responded to those guys with crickets. So that's not a very good look for the Vaudevillains. I don't know what they can do with those guys down the line to maybe improve their reactions, to get more people into them, but it's not a good look from the very beginning. I think the Ascension had a better go of it in their first month than the Vaudevillains have. And also, one thing I noticed about Enzo's attire, I don't know how long he's been doing this, but he had a poop emoji on his outfit, which was the first time I ever saw it. The first, I think, in the history of wrestling attire. One more thing I'll say about the Enzo injury. I didn't care for the fact that they kept going back to the replay of him hitting his head on the mat over and over again, not only right after that spot, but also throughout the night. I thought that was a little tasteless. On the other hand, I mean, you could argue it wasn't a gruesome injury, like, you know, say Kevin Ware breaking his leg in the middle of the NCAA tournament a few years back. At least it wasn't like that. It was just a guy hitting his head on the mat and being hurt, you know? So it was a more benign injury, I guess. So I guess on that level, you could understand why they keep going to it. But yeah, I think that them constantly showing the replay, I get why they do, because they want to have context to the updates they were giving, but they could have done without it. Up next, Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. I loved the way WWE built this story up to show their history, the fact they've been friends for 14 years. You know, say what you will about WWE, sometimes their video packages are the highlight of a storyline, honestly. I'm not saying that was a bigger thing than this match itself and the rivalry itself, because that's not the case, but this promo package leading up to their match was amazing, I thought. And also the great storytelling they just showed, not by the wrestlers themselves, but the camera crew as well, because you would see a shot where Owens and Zayn would be on the apron looking at each other, and the cameras got really tight on Owens' face, and it was just like you see the anger and hate in his eyes. And, you know, brilliant storytelling by the cameramen as well, not just the wrestlers and the producers who made those promo spots. That being said, the match itself, very physical, fun match to watch. I loved it. I thought the frog splash by Kevin Owens was great. You know, I loved the counter from the Tornado DDT into the backbreaker by Owens. That was another really cool spot. I mean, you see these two guys in the ring, and you're always going to see fun, amazing, innovative spots. Great match, Owens going over, you know, and that's okay, because these two are going to feud for a long time, I think. I can't wait to see what they have in store for us in the months and possibly years down the road, hopefully for some championships. Speaking of championships, up next is the Intercontinental Championship match where The Miz defends against Cesaro. Kevin Owens stuck around after winning his match to do commentary, which added a fun little dimension to this match, because now you know he wants to get back in the title picture, but you don't know who he's going to go against. So this is really cool stuff that they were doing here. The match itself, I will say about Cesaro, who knew all he needed to get over and get a push was a 007 theme and a tearaway suit. I guess that's Vince's vision of what this guy needs to get over. But it's working, you know. I think people aren't crapping on it the way they crapped on Adrian Neville's cape when he debuted. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I think The Miz and Maryse are doing very good for each other as an on-camera pair. Obviously, they're husband and wife in real life, but to have them on screen together when Maryse was first with the company, they weren't a couple on air. I think it's great for the both of them. I think The Miz, as a singles guy, he needed something after, you know, a while of being kind of like a jobber to the stars. It's good that they give him a little boost by having Maryse in his corner, and he's got the title. So that's very interesting to see where that's going to go in the long term with that. Then the ending, you know, the match itself, it was great. I will say the match was fun to watch. Cesaro got all his stuff in, so it was good times overall. The crazy closing moments where Sami Zayn comes out and jumps Kevin Owens, and then they're brawling and they distract Cesaro, and then Miz gets the roll-up and wins, and then at the end there's all this kerfuffle, and then Kevin Owens stands tall. That was a very telling moment, in my opinion, because it seems that Kevin Owens has, you know, right back in the Intercontinental title mix. You don't really know where Cesaro is going to end up after this. You don't really know how Sami Zayn is going to factor in necessarily, but you do know Kevin Owens is gunning for the IC title. So it's very curious to see where things are going to go from here. I'm very excited about that. Chris Jericho versus Dean Ambrose in the grudge match over scarves and the highlight reel becoming the Ambrose Asylum. Again, this continuing theme of Jericho being involved in really weird starts to feuds. But that be that as it may, I will say this match, like, I think they could have cut 5 minutes out of this match and it would have been so much better. I think the match went on a little too long, and you could tell the crowd was kind of dying. They were kind of like gassing the crowd when this match just kind of went a little longer than it should have, I think. I think it was the longest match of the night, not including the main event. But at least the main event was exciting, and I'll get more of that. This match was still, it had its exciting, fun moments. I think the one thing that made me laugh was midway through the match, Jericho did the son of a bitch spot, and he ran for the ropes, and Ambrose, I think, was supposed to get out of the way, and Jericho was supposed to fly out, because they did that the second time. The first time, Jericho goes, son of a bitch, and he runs right into Ambrose, and they just have to kind of like play off that for a second and then redo the spot. That made me laugh. Another thing that made me laugh was JBL's random comment near the open of the match where he referred to Ambrose as FLOKI the boat builder. I don't know if that's a reference to something. I don't follow what JBL follows, so maybe that's a rugby term. I don't know. I think that in the lead up to this feud, the last couple of feuds he's been in, Ambrose has been kind of booked like a jabroni, because, you know, in this feud and the one with Lesnar, both times he would call out a guy, a heel, and he'd get beat up for it, which is, it makes you look like an idiot if you're a good guy. I think that's not a good look for you. But be that as it may, I think it was very good that he won this match. He needed to win it after, some say, a disappointing, confusing loss to Lesnar, kind of an illogical loss to Lesnar last month at WrestleMania. I'm not saying he shouldn't have lost that one, but, well, actually, I think he should have won it, but what I think stuck in my craw more was the way he lost that one to Lesnar, was the fact that one F5 did him in and he was done, when he's been known to be so much more resilient. But I'm going on a tangent here. The match itself went a little too long, but I'm glad Dean Ambrose won the match. Women's Championship match, Charlotte defending her title against Natalya. Now, Charlotte, as she is wont to do, had Ric Flair in her corner, which, by the way, is just a good thing they cleaned him up after his meltdown at the airport late last week. And in Natalya's corner was Bret the Hitman Hart. So it was good to see him in that little capacity, kind of like to even the odds against Flair. This match, while it was good, I don't think it lived up to what they had at Roadblock a couple of months ago. I think that match was amazing. And this one, and they've had other matches in the past. Their matches at NXT was very good as well for the NXT Women's Championship, and then Roadblock was very good. This one, not the best of the three I've seen of these women. The Montreal Screwjob finish I didn't see coming, and I don't think, and I listened to the commentary, I don't think they made much of a mention of the fact that Charles Robinson was Little Nate, and he was the one who kind of did it. I listened for it, I didn't really hear any kind of exposition on that front. But the thing, I mean, I was surprised Natalya just didn't go WCW. Yes, with the backwards C, like Bret Hart did in Montreal. And then, of course, Bret Hart putting the sharpshooter on Ric Flair. Two old guys who can't move all that well trying to do that spot. It was funny. It was kind of sad, but mostly funny. But there you go. Charlotte in the sharpshooter, still can't sell worth a damn. She retains the Women's Championship. The Vince, Shane, and Stephanie segment in which Vince announced that he was giving Shane and Stephanie joint control of Monday Night Raw. At that point, they should have just gone, what? Freeze frame, roll the credits like in a sitcom. I think that would have been a nice touch there. You know, it's kind of similar to what they did when Austin and Bischoff were co-GMs of Raw. You know, there's all these different dueling authority figures in the history of WWE in the past. So we'll see where this one ends up. One thing I will say is, finally, Vince and Stephanie both addressed the fact that Shane lost to The Undertaker and really had no business being in power in the last 4 weeks to begin with. So glad they finally addressed that continuity thread there. One thing Stephanie said that stuck with me during her big speech during that segment was that she says people like Shane better because, one, he's a man, and two, because he's more likable. I want to talk about the likability thing more than the whole because he's a man thing. Because the thing I've noticed in all my years as a fan, the one common thread, especially over the last 10 years or so, is everything I've ever seen online and from my friends is that, oh, WWE would be run so much better with Shane McMahon at the helm. And people have been saying this for years, and it makes sense that Shane, in this storyline he's been in, has been the voice of the message boards, because he's saying everything the fans want to hear, and they're saying, yeah, Shane would run it better. And my whole question is, why? What is the justification for this exactly? You know, what evidence can you point to that would say, yes, Shane would do better at running WWE than Triple H and Stephanie. I'm not saying he'd be worse than Stephanie. I'm not saying Stephanie is objectively better or worse than what Shane would be. I'm not saying that's irrelevant in this question. The question is, why is Shane qualified to run? Let's look at his credentials, okay? He was involved in the company for a long time doing ring crew and refereeing. He was the head of the web division for a long time. He was an on-air talent, did a lot of crazy stuff against guys like Big Show and Kane and Test and Steve Blackman and Kurt Angle and recently The Undertaker, so he's got that going for him too. But what did he do creatively? What was his legacy in creative? And other than the web stuff, which he did a very good job at, what other stuff qualifies him to run the place other than that? And he's a McMahon. I think to me it boils down to people's perception of him based on his character compared to their perception of Stephanie based on her character. You could say all you want about the fact that it's PG now. She doesn't take bumps. She doesn't get her comeuppance anymore. That's part of it. But I mean, just overall, just the whole history of Stephanie and what people have heard about Stephanie backstage. What makes Shane more qualified? It comes down to one of two things for when I hear that. Is that one, either he's a man, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with that sentiment. I don't think that's the reason. But the other reason that I think people like Shane over Stephanie is because they like his character better on screen, which is an even stupider rationale. So please, I'm probably getting some heat for saying this, so I apologize. I'm sorry, not sorry. But that's just the way I feel about the whole Shane, Stephanie, who's more qualified to run WWE thing. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section on this, because it's driving me crazy. Main event for the WWE Championship. Roman Reigns defending against AJ Styles. Short answer to those of you who hadn't seen the show yet, no, Finn Balor did not show up in this match. But let's talk about the match itself. I think it was a really good big man, little man storytelling, especially in the beginning. Just looking at the size and the appearance of Roman Reigns compared to Styles, Reigns looks like a monster. That was the most physically intimidating of a presence I'd ever seen when he's up against a smaller guy like AJ Styles. He should really just go against Styles all the time, people his size all the time, because then he'll look even more dominating and menacing. Be that as it may, I think both guys looked really good in this match. I think they both made each other look really good. AJ Styles made Roman Reigns look like $1 million, and the other way around. They both sold for each other really well. This was a really fun match to watch, and I loved the fact that, they did the whole SummerSlam 97 main event retread where it ends at a count out. Oh, restart the match. It ends in a DQ, restart the match. And then, then all the madness happened with the Usos and then Anderson and Gallows coming in there. Was it a little overbooked? Kinda, yeah, I'd say it was kind of an overbooked match, but I mean, that didn't, you can have an overbooked match and still have it be a lot of fun. My biggest go-to example of that kind of thing is when it was Triple H and The Rock at Backlash 2000, and Austin came out and saved the day against the whole corporation. That was just, that's an example of it being overbooked, but still being a lot of fun. And this match also had that, because there was just madness with the other four guys coming in there and just fighting, and then everyone got thrown out, and then flying out and doing crazy stuff. Then there was the finish, which ended up being one-on-one. It was kind of a back-and-forth trading of finishers with Reigns going over. But I mean, I think it was a satisfying match. I mean, okay, yeah, no one expected, I don't think, any sane person wouldn't have expected Reigns to lose this match 1 month after WrestleMania, where they worked so hard just to get him over and win the damn thing in the first place. So, but what it came down to was, would the match be entertaining? I think the fact they didn't do a Bullet Club thing, they didn't have a for sure, yay, Anderson and Gallows and Styles are on the same page. Finn Balor didn't show up, the Balor Club didn't show up or anything like that. So, I think anyone who was expecting that might have been a little disappointed, but the match itself, in my opinion, was a lot of fun. And then they announced at the very end of the show that there's going to be a rematch at Extreme Rules for the title, and Michael Cole sells that announcement with all the fun and passion of a colonoscopy, and then we fade to black. Final thoughts about Payback 2016. This show blew WrestleMania out of the water. I think there's this recurring theme now that the show after WrestleMania seems to always do better and is a better show overall than WrestleMania itself, which is unfortunate. But there you go. I think every match, the only thing I had against it, and I'm not including the opening match, the tag match where Enzo got hurt. That doesn't really factor into my grade, obviously, because of what happened. It's very unfortunate that Enzo got hurt. I hope he gets better, but that match is not going to get entered in my grade. Other than that, the only things that I didn't really like about the show itself were, the IC title match it didn't really capture my attention the way I hoped it would. And then Jericho and Ambrose definitely, I think, again, went way too long, and I think they didn't have to stretch it out as much as they did. So it kind of lost, I lost some steam with that one as well. But then everything else around that, in my opinion, was very good. I would give this show a B+ grade for a bunch of B++. I'm kidding. No, they're all great. So yeah, a B+ grade is my score for this show. The pre-show delivered in my opinion. I think the matches were great for that. Everything else, except for, IC title, Jericho Ambrose, and the tag team match, which we don't count in the score for this one. I think it was all really fun to watch. The main event, I think, blew my expectations away. We know how good AJ Styles is. We know Roman Reigns can be good, but would they mesh well together? I think they did. So yes, I'd say those were the high points for me. And again, I would have to say that was probably my favorite match of the night was the WWE title match, with Owens and Zayn being a very, very close second. So what did you think of Payback? Let me know in the comments section below. And a quick preview of what's to come this week on Wrestling with Regret. On Tuesday, Kayfabe Kitchen returns, and on Thursday, a very special episode about Donald Trump and his time in WWE. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.